What a way to kick off our Fast Friday here at Sebring International Raceway, as we've got hopefully 19 Mustangs to come out on the track for a 45-minute contest for the second race in the 2026 season. Hello everybody in the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre. I'm John Hindhaugh. Off to my right, Arjuna Kankapati, as we're getting ready for another edition of some great racing on a track that could almost have been built for these Ford Mustangs. And our coverage of the Mustang Challenge North America brought to you by Ford Racing. The weather is doing its bit. It's already 68 Fahrenheit in the air, 81 Fahrenheit on the track. That's 27 Celsius on the track and a very pleasant 20 in the air. And we are getting ready for some more fun. Yesterday's race was absolutely outstanding, and maybe, just maybe, we're seeing the birth of another Ford Racing superstar. First of all, before we tell you what happened in detail yesterday, let's tell you where we are for those of you not here at Sebring International Raceway. And by the way, it's a packed crowd of knowledgeable endurance and sports car racing fans. 3 3/4 miles. We talk about turn numbers in most places, but here it's the names. Le Mans Curve, Ullman Straight, Gurney Bend. These are legends of the sport, and rightly so. The action areas at that first fast, insanely quick first left-hand corner, then the big braking down at the hairpin in front of the hotel. And let's not forget Sunset Bend. The sun's just come up from the opposite side of the track, so we won't get to see why Sunset is so cold, but turn 17 in 2 parts is a passing opportunity if you can keep your 4 Michelin tyres on the ground. Well, I mentioned that we had a race yesterday, and it gave us plenty to think about as we opened the season in style. So let's just remind ourselves of what happened yesterday. At the drop of the green flag, we had a pretty decent getaway, and our poleman called Loftsgard led them to the first green of 2026. He jumped away through that first left-hander and had a decent lead. In Dark Horse Legends, Chris Clark had a spin down at turn 7, which took him out of contention. And then Joe Dedricks, with smoke coming out the back of the car, that car was retired, asked to come into the pit lane by the race control. Alice Bashira, he was driving away from the field in the Dark Horse Legends. Cole Loftsgard came to the line and won overall, and Bashira won it comfortably, chasing down third overall. So Bashira 4th and winning the Dark Horse, and Cole Loftsgard converting that pole position to the win. Just before we look at the Ford Racing starting grades, Arjuna Kankapati, are we seeing the early signs of another Ford Racing superstar?
Quite possibly, and I had a chance to catch up with Cole this morning, and he said that he came here to Mustang Challenge to prove himself to Ford. He's not young, he's 30 years young in his words, but it's an opportunity for him to stand out, and with the Ford Racing CEO Jim Farley on the grid as well, everyone has stood up and counted the driver that was 1.2 seconds quicker in Sector 2.
That was for the first qualifying yesterday, for yesterday's race. His second best time is only good enough for the second row. Here's your Ford Racing starting grid. Well, Michael Tosi will start on pole position for Wheelhouse Motorsport, one of the super teams that we were featuring yesterday. Devon Anderson for Tech Sport alongside him. Then Cole in third with Sandy Satullo, who was a bit of a star yesterday actually. Had a problem, we didn't really get to the bottom of that. Lost power early on and had to fight his way back, and he did that. He'll start from fourth today, with Will Lucas in 5th position. Alex Bashura, DHL pole sitter for Spark Performances on the outside of row number 3. On row 4, it's Tate Pritt and Chris Clark. Ryan Persing and Colin Harrison on 5. On 6, Tom Tate and Doug Peterson. Joseph Dedricks and Paolo Salvatore on row 7. Row 8, Jim Farley is an invitational car. He is invisible for points. He's got Nick Smithers for company. It's Walter Bobco and Luigi Lotti on the 9th row. And I'm just trying to see if Bruce Griffin is out there. I think he is. Bruce Griffin and the Flying Lion Motorsport didn't take part in yesterday. Oh, no, he's not. My apologies. I thought I saw a flash of the car. That car still has not been repaired. 45 minutes on the clock, green flag in the air, and Michael Tosi does exactly today what Cole Loftsgard did yesterday, and that is jump away in that number 77. That was an awesome start. He's got Devin Anderson right behind him for company in the red, white and blue cars. They come through Christensen Corner, and the early part of the lap, everyone has got through turn 1. Yes, they have, into 3 and 4, and Anderson goes to the right, goes to the left, tries to find a way through early on. Cold Michelin tyres, side by side behind them, Satullo and Loftsgard, and Satullo in the red and white car is in 3rd position at the moment. That's where he's qualified, and that's where he's trying to hold on to that at the moment. Alex Bashura has made a good start and sits in behind them. He's up to 5th position, but it's Loftsgard who holds on to 3rd. Meantime, the 2 leaders are side by side coming out of 7th through that flat out kick, and a great start for the first half a lap.
Cole Loftsgard and Alex Bashura both told me that they'll be starting on old scrub tyres, and it will take a couple of laps for them to find their feet, and maybe that's where Michael Tosi and Devin Anderson have an advantage right now as they begin to try and build their advantage at the very front. Will Lucas also told me that he wanted to be more aggressive on the start because, John, in these races, it's so hard to make passes. You've got to set them up and really, through a sequence of corners, try and make something happen.
Little love tap. Ding, ding, I'm here. Hello, this is Devin Anderson calling on the leader, Michael Tosi. Just a little nudge on the rear bumper coming out of Tower Turn. Now through that sweeping set of corners that we call the Jean de Bihan bends, named after Olivier Jean de Bihan, Le Mans winner in 1962 with the then F1 world champion at the same time in that car was Phil Hill. American of some note, lovely bloke, interviewed him a few times. Coming down the Ullman Straight now, coming to the 17th and final corner. It's almost 2 corners, to be honest. That's how you have to think of it. Take that first apex, the clipping point close to the concrete wall, then let the car breathe in this and settle over the bumps before you turn it in for the second part of the corner. And at the end of the first lap, it is the pole man Michael Tosi from Devin Anderson, Cole Loftsgard, Sandy Satullo. Alex Bashura's made places up to 5th spot. Will Lucas, Chris Clark, Ryan Persing, Tate Pritt and Tom Tate are your top 10. And Chris Clark's made up a bit of ground as well. Just got Will Lucas between himself and Alex Bashura. The blue number panels, when you see these cars from the side, they are the Dark Horse Legends. The red are the Dark Horse. The machinery's identical. The driver is the determining factor there. And we already had a little coming together at turn 13 between the leaders, and that's been looked at by race control. They do not like to see nose-to-tail contact coming through a corner.
And in these cars, you've got to be so careful as well, because that front splitter, it's so crucial to the balance of the car, and it can be very easy to slightly damage that part and affect the entire aero balance. I had mentioned that Loftsgard, starting on old tires, said he might need some time to build up. Well, he is starting to latch onto the tail end of Devin Anderson and Michael Tosi. And what makes these cars so difficult, John, is that you've got to find that balance. You can't overdrive it, but it is so easy to underdrive the car as well, and that's where these drivers are trying to find the balance.
Loftsgard just overdriving a little bit coming out of turn 13, Tower Turn, dropping his left rear Michelin into the dirt. There's quite a drop off there. Going off the circuit, it's not a problem. You lose a bit of forward motion, but coming back on, you've got to be really careful you don't catch the inside shoulder on the curb. It's actually better to straighten the car out and keep on the dirt for a little while rather than come back, because there's a little trench being dug there with all the drivers who've been pushing the limits of the track. For a moment it looked like Cole Loftsgard was on terms with the leaders. That little mistake has dropped him maybe 10 Mustang Dark Horse R lengths behind the pair of leaders who are back on the front straight now and across that famous checkered stripe, where on Saturday at 10:10 in the morning we'll start the 74th running of the Mobile 112 Hours of Sebring. A huge amount of Ford Mustangs here this weekend in competition, quite aside from the 19 that we started the weekend with here. There's almost another dozen, actually, over 30 Mustangs here this weekend competing in the various IMSA Championship. So the leaders then settling into race pace, and it does look as though Cole Loftsgard has got pace in that round 3 racing car. What was the thought on starting on all tyres? Had he gone through his allocation? Does he think that he can make these tyres last for 45 minutes?
Well, the joys of racing, you're always trying to optimize your performance, also optimize your cost, and so the wise thing for him, he was with the budget that they have, was to use the tyres from qualifying, and he did say that he's not too concerned about that being a factor over the 45 minutes. We're talking about 2.5 to 3 seconds of fall off across our 45-minute races, John, and that's why I'll go back to the overdriving versus underdriving. You overdrive too early at the start, you may have 5 seconds of fall off, but if you underdrive the car, you may be losing crucial seconds at the start of this race, and that's where Robert Noacre was so good last year. And look at this already. We've got a more competitive championship than we did in 2025.
Wheelhouse Motorsport from Techsport from round 3. Wheelhouse Motorsport with the most entries. We featured them in our Ford Racing team update yesterday. We'll look at another team today, give you all the details of that in a moment. But that Wheelhouse Motorsport is in association with Robert Noacre Racing, so Robert been passing on some of the knowledge that he's gained. They ran up to 6 cars last year at times. That's a lot of data on a car that hasn't changed at all now since last year.
Exactly. Between 2023 and 2024, we had the change of the Michelin tire from 19 down to 18. That was one of the things that drivers had actually pushed for, and Michelin and Ford responded. Also, some changes to some components, but it's a lot easier for these teams coming into a new year. However, there are some new drivers jumping into the championship. Will Lucas has got the advantage, though, of a full year in Mustang Cup. What is different, though, in Mustang Challenge, John, is the compressed schedule. Just 2 practices and 1 qualifying. And he told me he nursed an issue in qualifying a couple of days ago because there just isn't time between the different sessions to get the car fixed up.
One of the things eagle-eyed viewers around the circuit and spectators around the circuit may have noticed is that we've got the galloping Mustang back on the grills of the cars this year. There was various times last year when they weren't there, looking very much like a Steve McQueen Bullet, of course, because if you remember that dark green car did not have the galloping Mustang on the front. There was reasons for that, because the racing was so close that Ford Racing wanted to get as much air through the front of the car as possible, so parts of the grille weren't fitted last year. There's an upgraded cooling package on these cars for this year. I don't think you can complain when you've got to make upgrades because the racing was so close already. And so there's an upgraded cooling package, which means the Dark Horse grille can go back on, and that would be the same part as you would go down to Alan J Automotive on US 27 South, which is not a million miles away from where we're sitting now. Go and talk to the very nice parts team there. And so many of the parts on these Mustang Dark Horse R, the racing parts, the racing versions of these cars, are identical to the road-going versions that you can buy at your local Ford dealer. That Ford Racing actually give a dossier to the drivers and the teams with the part numbers on. There's no racing tax, if you will, to go onto that. You go down to your Ford dealer. Indeed, they encourage you to have a relationship with your dealer. I know some Ford dealers around the country have been asking their local teams if they can have the cars in the showroom when they're not being raced. And why wouldn't you want something like that, number 33, Alex Bashira Spark Performance, in your Ford showroom? Because that would cause a bit of a stir.
It's a gorgeous car, the olive green, the orange highlights as well. But unfortunately, the last time we're going to see Alex Bashura this year in the 2026 Mustang Challenge North America, our defending Dark Horse Legends champion, who last year was balancing his Mustang Challenge campaign and an MX-5 season, but this year some other priorities. Alex and his partner welcoming a newborn in May, and so he's going to take a bit of a step back from racing. However, I am sure he will be back. He was telling me that the hopes are to jump into a GT4, hopefully a Ford Mustang in the future.
That sounds like a plan. Absolutely sounds like a plan. Well, he's given us plenty of entertainment down through the years, and he'll be looking for a perfect weekend here. 2 poles, 2 fastest Dark Horse Legends laps and 2 wins the moment he's on course for that. He wanted to show that he could be up at the sharp end of things, wanted to finish inside. He's finished well inside the top 10 in the past, but he wanted to upgrade that to top 5 finishes. Did that yesterday and was knocking on the door of 4th position as they came across the line yesterday.
He finished 5th in the Dark Horse class last year. Yes, he was a Dark Horse Legends champion, but it's an optional classification, and it was a really interesting balance between sometimes the Dark Horse competitors needing to fight past for track position, sometimes just thinking they needed points at the end of races as we worked closer to the checkered flag. Bashura is about 8 seconds clear of Chris Clark, and I wonder if that means that with Will Lucas closing in one of the Dark Horse machines, he won't feel the need to go so defensive.
Is he a racing driver? Is he in a racing car? Does he have a racing helmet on, Arjuna?
Especially if this is his last race for a while.
Exactly right. I think you might see some decent defence here from Alex Bashura as he crosses the line. The leaders still only half a second apart, but good battling going on down the field. This is for overall 5th position. Bashura going through the first corner now. I tell you what, Alex's car is set up really nicely. It's riding the bumps notably better than some others out there. Will Lucas closing in that multicoloured car, the number 34 machine from Wheelhouse Motorsports. So Wheelhouse first, 3rd and 6th at the moment. Under 0.4 of a second coming out of Big Bend and heading down towards the heavy braking area at turn number 7. It's very, very undulating in the braking area there. But both of them get the cars pulled up. Hello to you at the track. And those of you watching around the world on the Ford Racing official YouTube channel and website, timing and scoring available for you as well. Don't need to tell you the gap between Alex Bashura in the dark olive number 33 and Will Lucas in the multicoloured 34. You can see it for yourself. It's 3/5 of absolutely nothing at all, and it looks as if Will is getting a little bit frustrated there. He's using a lot more racetrack coming out of turn 13, tower turn, excuse me, and heading into those sweepers before the right-hander onto the back straight. Yes, if I'd sent them left-handed there, they'd have been off into the new camping area. They'd have found some friends, I'm fairly certain.
Lots of friends around this track.
Absolutely packed this week already. Couldn't believe how many people there were here Tuesday and Wednesday. This is our first track action of what is an incredibly packed Fast Friday. Again, Lucas looks to the right-hand side. Can't get through. Just looking at the other battles, Chris Clark not able to close in at the moment. He's sitting in 7th, 2nd in the Dark Horse Legends class. Good battle between Paolo Salvadori and Nick Smithers further down the field in the 84 and 58 cars. It's the Torre Racing and Nick Smithers Racing car. They're about a second apart and just half a second behind Colin Harrison for 12th, 13th, 14th and 15th. The little 3-car battle pack with still half an hour to go.
We are starting to see the first signs of fall off. I've just seen Alex Bashura His fastest lap of 14.890, last time at the line of 15.994. However, there are still some competitors who are setting personal bests, so still finding some speed as we begin the 2026 season. And I think that's an important sign, because it's a bit of a break before we go racing again, and all these drivers are using their limited track time to the best of their ability. Will Lucas, half-hearted look up the inside. He's really trying to spot the place where Bashura is slow, but going back to what you were saying, the car's looking so stable, Bashura's not putting a foot wrong, and Will Lucas struggling to pull up and try and make a move.
The joys of manufacturer single mark racing. You have to plan and plot and scheme and work out where you have the tiniest advantage over your competitors. It's been a problem for Lou Gilotti. He yesterday didn't have the best of times in the number 28, the yellow and black car. Joe Dedrick's retired as well. Lou's back in the pit lane now in the G2 Motorsports machine. Now, we don't expect pit stops here, so if you've come to the pit lane, you've either got a tyre puncture or something like that, picked up a bit of debris, or there's something more sinister going on, and I'm going to say it's the latter there, because there was no urgency from the guys at G2. Top three then, make that the top four, as Sandy Satullo doing what he did yesterday, Arjuna. Had a good start, then the car for some reason slowed and he lost a handful of places. And hearing that Joe Dedrick's is slow as well on the circuit in the white number 63, we'll try and find out what's going on there. But Sandy Satullo in the red and white car, since he got past and into fourth place, has closed up now on the battle for third, who are now only a second behind the battle for first. So first, second, third and fourth on the same run down towards turn 7. This is getting interesting, and if Satullo can replicate what he did yesterday in the second half of the race, he'll be a force. He has to be in the conversation at the end of this race.
He dropped from 4th on lap 3 all the way down to 14th position, and was able to fight back to 6th at the end of the race. It was a really impressive drive back through the field.
It was.
And he's brought that confidence with him right now as well. You've got the driver who yesterday everyone was singing the praises of, who's having now to fight his way back through the field. Cole Loftsgard on debut here in the Mustang Challenge has got a veteran of the series in front of him, but another rookie leading the way. And Michael Tosi has only got some experience in spec Miatas and various Mazda race cars. This is a big step up.
Well, if he's been racing in those series, he knows all about close quarters racing. What's he going to be like controlling the race for 45 minutes? Bad news, I'm afraid, if you're following Lou Gilotti. He has gone behind the wall, or at least his number 28 G2 racing car, G2 Motorsports car, has gone behind the wall. Hearing from race control that Tate Pritt went off at turn 1 last lap around, but did continue. He hasn't lost a place. He's still just ahead of Tom Tate in 10th position. And they're only half a second, those two, behind Ryan Persing. So it hasn't lost him too much time.
Sounds like he didn't pick up any of the advertising banners like we saw yesterday in a couple of our practice sessions. It's so easy to push out wide.
He threaded the needle between the WeatherTech banners there. Might have just clipped one with the right front. Let's see if we have to give him 4 faults for this one. Oh, it didn't go over. It didn't fall over. So I think he's still got a clear round at the moment. He might have lost a bit of the under tray, though, as he came back onto the circuit. So that might cost him later on. Great pickup from our crew up in Concord. We effectively call those that watch the replay machines and play those in the tape apes, going back to when it was magnetic tape. Very hard-working bunch of people at NASCAR Productions putting our TV pictures together up in Concord in their fabulous, still smells of brand new, the new broadcast centre up there in Concord. Great facility. Good morning to everyone there, and a special hello to Jordan, who's with us for the first time this year. The voice of reason in our ears here at the circuit in the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre. So Tosi with 1.1 seconds now from the Anderson Loftsgard battle for second. Satullo just hasn't been able to link onto the back of that. Sandy trying his bit, then a big gap back to Will Lucas. Persing, Pritt together. Tom Tate's in that conversation as well. Dark Horse with the red number backgrounds. Now, this is the first real opportunity for Loftsgard as he comes down into 17, and Sandy Satullo has closed right in, thinking there might be an opportunity here. Watch out for the red and white car as it comes through the final corner. It's a change of second position now for Cole Loftsgard, who crosses the line ahead of Devin Anderson. Can Satullo take the opportunity? Immediately goes on the attack down the inside, the left-hand side into turn one. Had to slightly tighten his line coming through there to give racing room. Has done. Still side by side. They're disputing third position. It's not over yet, but fine driving by both. And Devin Anderson holds on to that third.
I mean, Cole Loftsgard just lobbed it up the inside as they chucked it in towards Le Mans. I think Devin Anderson tried to open up the corner a bit too much, and unlike what we saw yesterday where cars were able to roll the momentum around the outside, because of the aggressiveness from Cole, it meant that Devin was stuck in two minds, delayed the application of the throttle, and they ran the entirety of the Almond Straight side by side before Cole eventually able to get the move done on the flick into Sunset Bend. What it did do, though, double the race lead, and Michael Tosi now from 1.1 seconds, 2.2 to the good.
Well, while we're watching these cars running and we're giving you the gaps between them, a fantastic example of how motor racing can be used as a teaching aid. I want to say hello now to North Hart Elementary 5th grade, Mrs. Hill's class. They are watching live and they are using the race times and the gaps between the cars to learn how to add and subtract with decimal places. All those gaps being analysed by the students there at North Hart Elementary, who are watching along with us with about half the race having been completed. Perfect example of STEM, I think.
How cool.
I think that's fabulous. Mrs. Hill, I salute you. We didn't have cool teachers like you when I was at school. Mind, that was a very, very long time ago. I was at school so long ago, pupils of 5th grade North Hart Elementary, that we didn't even have decimal places. That's how long ago it was.
Well, and I'm glad that they're watching us because we've got 3 decimal places, unlike some others where they've now gone down to the single decimal place. So our elementary students getting a bit of an extra workout, but that's so cool. I've had some great math teachers as well. I never think I've watched racing in a school class before, though.
Great way to engage young minds, and I'm not saying pupils that you should be watching motor racing all the time on a Friday, but lovely way to incorporate it into the curriculum, and we salute Mrs. Hill and the rest of those who are forming young minds around this country and around the world. Thank you very much for what you do for the next generation. Maybe we're going to get some race engineers or some strategists out of North Hart Elementary, and in 20 years time or so you'll be interviewing someone who's running a race team and they say, how did you get started in motorsport? Oh, I watched the Ford Mustang Challenge. Well, in Mrs. Hill's class.
I am glad that you bring up the race engineer topic as well, because so many people think the only way to get involved in racing is to be a driver, but that is so incorrect. And I want to encourage anyone who's in college right now in your 1st or 2nd year, maybe just finishing up high school as well, when you're looking at your university, go and look if they have a Formula student program, because there are some big budgets behind some of those teams and some incredible engineering. But it's not just engineering. There's the people that raise the money, the PR people, and there's so many different ways that you can get your first taste of what it's like to work in motorsports. And I have so many friends who have gone from Formula student who are now working in various different paddocks around the world.
Just in last week's Midweek Motorsport, spoke to a young lady called Ellis, who's an engineer, trainee apprentice engineer at Jaguar Land Rover, and started in something very similar, running a couple of electric cars, very similar to Formula Student, and she's been one of the fulfillment engineers on the Defender Dakar program. So yeah, absolutely opportunities there in motorsport and in automotive, career choices to be made at some stage. Think outside the box a little bit. So from the screen, I can tell you the gap from first to second has come back down a little bit since Cole Loftsgard has got through, and now it's back down under 1 second, 0.966 of a second. And Cole Loftsgard, despite starting on the tyres on which he qualified, has pulled out nearly 4 seconds since he went past Devin Anderson. So he has looked after the tyres. Sandy Satullo has not yet dispatched Anderson for third place, but what a battle this has been.
I mean, Anderson's having to drive in his mirrors as well, and this is costing them time and allowing those top two to break away and maybe encouraging them to fight a little bit earlier than traditionally they might. Cole Loftsgard, I'm just looking at the times here. We're on lap 11 of this race. He's going quicker than he did yesterday with sticker tires. He is finding that balance of the underdriving, overdriving that we were talking about. And I'll go back to what I said slightly earlier. We are already seeing a more competitive season than last year, where Robert Nowaker swung perfect, led every practice, got every pole position, got every fastest lap, and stood on top of every single podium.
Well, let's have a look at a couple of the teams who are competing in 2026 with our Ford Racing Mustang Challenge team update. A couple of tech sport cars that we want to look at, both in the Dark Horse Legend. Third position at the moment for the number 22, Devin Anderson, albeit being pushed by that red and white number 7. Their other car is the number 21 of Colin Harrison in 9th position in class, 12th overall. And Sam Pearley's team, Pearley Motorsport, they've teamed up with AAG Racing in this part of the world, actually, and leading at the moment in, second at the moment in the Dark Horse Legends. Chris Clark, though, has now got no cars between him and Alex Bashura. The gap is 14 seconds. We'll keep an eye on that number 9 car that sits 7th overall. And their other car, the number 29, is Ryan Persing, well within the top 10 overall and running 6th in the Dark Horse category. That's our Ford Racing Mustang Challenge team update, and we'll be shining the spotlight on teams throughout the season, seeing how they are performing as we go through the race. Well inside the second half of the race now. The red numbers on timing and scoring indicate the top 5 are Dark Horse competitors. Then the drivers who have slightly more experience of life with the blue numbers. Alex Bashura, 12.2 behind the leader. Chris Clark, 27.5 behind the leader. So North Hart Elementary, 5th grade in Mrs. Hill's class. What is the gap between the 33 in 6th, Bashura, and Clark in 7th? They are battling for the lead of their class. On the screen, you've got the data that you need to show that. Those are the gaps to the leader. See if you can work out what the gap between those two are, and I'll tell you at the end of this lap. It might change by then, of course.
Good thing we don't have to do the math and we can just look at our timing screen. Never trust the commentators' math. Last lap.
Don't give away the secrets. We're mathematical geniuses.
Got the
Actually,
abacus.
it's arithmetic. It's not maths, it's arithmetic.
You can tell I've been in the country for now 16
Yeah,
years. I'm calling it math, not maths. Last lap, Devin Anderson got alongside of Sandy Satullo. We've also now got a fight for the lead as we rumble down the Ulmann.
How fantastic that Cole Loftsgard has pulled back that gap. They're side by side going through turn 17, through the middle. The bumps come into play, and easy as you like. Cole Loftsgard's just gone through. Well, we asked the question on the Ford Racing grid rundown. We saw him do it from pole position. Can he come through the field? The answer right now, with 15.5 minutes to go, is yes, Cole Loftsgard can. But it's not over yet, as Michael Tosi in that black number 77, the Augusta-sponsored car, he is still disputing that lead.
This isn't over. This is not over by any means. We were talking about Paley Motorsport slightly earlier. Cole was actually telling me in the test session when they came here a few weeks ago, Sam Paley helped them find some magic in the suspension. It goes to show what a paddock this is. It's a real community. It's all celebrating Ford racing. And in the third year now, John, of this Mustang Challenge North America, we've got Mustangs racing on the other side of the world as well. It's just such a cool way for us to open up the season here at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. Such a historic race, and seeing some fantastic new additions to our series.
Now, I hope you've done the subtraction in the 5th grade North Hart Elementary class, because that gap between Chris Clark and Alex Bashura in 7th and 6th was 16.52 seconds. It'll change at the end of the lap, and we'll reset that. All the gaps on the screen show the gaps to the leader, and the leader is the round 3 racing blue fronted Mustang. Big V8 engine mounted in the front of that car. I reckon Mrs. Hill's class need to go to their local Ford dealer and have a look around and tell them that what they've been doing, I'm sure they'll be welcomed with open arms. And I bet they've got a Dark Horse road car down there, North Hart Elementary. Bound to have a Ford dealer somewhere near.
They're only about an hour from Road Atlanta.
Oh, ho, ho, ho. Hello.
Maybe a field trip later this year.
We're going to get Mrs. Hill into all kinds of trouble with the principal here. Through turn 1. I just think it's a brilliant idea. Through turn 1. The leaders with 13 minutes and 10 seconds now to go into Christensen curve, named after Tom Christensen, who at one stage with his Audi teammates dominated the 12-hour, the Mobil 1 12 hours. Actually could have and should have won one more than he did, because he blew the pit lane speed limit on either the last or the penultimate pit stop and had to come through a drive-through, and that cost him a race win. Yes, I have been here that long. Really stuck in my mind, that one. Well, this has been good racing. Good, sensible racing from Cole Loftsgard. We talked about how he controlled the race yesterday from the front, Arjuna. He's paced himself nicely on a set of tyres that did the qualifying, the 15-minute qualifying session earlier in the race week. And he's used what he learned yesterday when he was imperious at the front of the field to be able to work his way through the traffic, close down that gap. Michael Tosi must have thought he was home and hosed.
What makes this even more impressive is one of the changes between Mustang Cup and Mustang Challenge competition is a slightly different tyre. And here in Mustang
exactly.
But here in Mustang Challenge, when you overdrive the car, it punishes you more. Whereas in Mustang Cup, it maybe makes sense as well, being the entry step into the Mustang suite of racing. When you're qualifying a tyre, what are you doing? Pushing it as hard as you can. And now another heat cycle, 40 minutes of racing so far or so. He's doing a great job.
Yeah,
and
great.
I'm just so amazed that not just him, but there's going to be a couple of other drivers on older tyres as well as we get to the end of this one.
Yeah, tyres are not an infinite resource here. You get an allocation for the weekend, and Sandy Satullo is using his Michelins very nicely at the moment as he comes round the outside. Is he going to be able to pull this one off? It's a bold manoeuvre. He's gone too wide, got into the dirt, had to lift off there. And ultimately, the laws of physics took over there. Went in on a different line, but couldn't hold the speed as he didn't have the grip, and very sensibly eased the throttle just a little bit, tightened his line. But he does seem to have a quicker car than Devin Anderson. But Anderson, I think I've only seen him defend down at turn 7, which is where they are now. I think I've only seen him do it maybe once or twice. It's an absolute masterclass in not driving in your mirrors, just hitting your marks and doing your lap times. And
sadly got alongside once into Sunset Bend, but wasn't able then to convert into turn 1. It goes back to the fact that these are, yes, they've got 500 horsepower, but they are fundamentally still momentum cars. You've got to use the speed through the corner. You don't have all the aero of a GT3 machine or even a GT4 to get you out of some of the trickier situations. He is, though, I think, starting to feel a bit more of that pressure as we get into the closing minutes of this race. Sandy Satullo just getting closer and closer as well. I'm just keeping an eye on Will Lucas, who's the next Wheelhouse Motorsport driver up in the number 34 car in 5th. He's got the gap to this pair down, I was going to say down to 2.5 seconds. He is driving with some verve. It's not 2.5 seconds now. He can see them, and that will be a great fillip to him. Something to aim at. He'll be looking to break just a little bit later. Alex Bashura is in 6th position now. Still has over 15.5 seconds between himself and Chris Clark. That's the two leaders in Dark Horse Legends with the blue numbers, 33 and 9. Arithmetic done for you there in our timing screen. Oh, I tell you what, Will Lucas has got a sniff of something here. That's a potential podium, let's not forget, with 8.5 minutes to go, Arjuna. That's 3rd and 4th that Will Lucas in that mainly black but multicoloured number 34 Wheelhouse Motorsports car. Now he's got to just be cool and calm. He's taking more time out of the guys ahead of him. He's taken a full second the last time around out of the guys ahead of him. So can he get close enough to make a strike? Has he got enough performance advantage to do what Sandy Satullo has not been able to do for the last 15 minutes or so? He comes into this year as defending Mustang Cup champion in both of the championships that they have. We talked about this yesterday. 2 days, 2 championships can be run by 2 different drivers if you want. He also comes in, though, as one of the newest members of the Ford Racing Development Program, alongside of Devin Anderson, who we've seen defending very strongly today. Will was saying at the evaluation that they did at Charlotte, the most important thing for him was that he could see the data between him and the rest of the potentials. And what stood out to him is that he belongs. And that is such an important thing for so many drivers, John, to get that confidence in such a significant position when you have these opportunities. And Will is really at the end of this race. Yes, he lost out at the start to Alex Bashura. That cost him some time. He's making up for it now as Satullo and Anderson continue to squabble. At IMSA Radio, as always, if you want to get in touch with us here in the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre. Still the battle rages on between Anderson in 3rd, 4th. Is that white and red Sandy Satullo car. For the moment, Will Lucas seems to have dropped back. Here's the opportunity. Sandy squares off the corner, but he's had that problem. He's missed a gear. He missed a gear. That must have been what he did yesterday. You could see the car slow down, and then he snatched it back into gear, and he's going to come under immediate pressure from Will Lucas just as he was lining up Anderson to try for 2nd position. You definitely felt that he had an opportunity there. Stick shift, 6 speed
3 pedals. You have to be able to work the clutch. And maybe in his excitement of coming out to 17, he just didn't quite snatch the upshift. Now, has he got anything left in the last 6 minutes or so?
I don't think it was the same issue as yesterday, John, because he had 2 laps that were about 15 seconds off the pace consecutively. But you are right. I don't think there's much question there that he was just in so much adrenaline flowing through his system that maybe he just missed the gear, didn't time the clutch quite right. But I think importantly, 5 minutes left to go. Will Lucas not as close as maybe he would have wanted to be. So Sandy has a chance to now settle back in and try and close the gap once again.
A couple of laps before, Will Lucas would have been in prime position there to capitalise on that issue. But he just dropped away a little bit. Loftsgard, by the way, has pulled out nearly 2 seconds now. 1.965. Back to Michael Tussey, who is fairly secure, I'd say, in 3rd. Can Devin Anderson in... Michael Tussey in 2nd place, Devin Anderson in 3rd. Can he breathe a little easier now that Sandy Satullo has dropped a full 2nd and more back?
I've got a question for you, John.
Oh, dear.
One thing that Cole Loftsgard was saying that he was adapting to in this car was coming from Brazil, where he's been doing a lot of racing, he's been driving cars with mechanical brakes, so I guess a lot more of a direct feeling on the pedal. This Mustang Challenge has got a boosted brake, and he was saying that was one of the things that he was really trying to get to grips with.
Because it's based so closely on the Dark Horse R, the Dark Horse rather, street car, the road version, then it retains a lot of the systems, and that's not unusual in road cars. There is an ABS system on this car which helps the drivers not to lock the wheels. In race cars, you can there's 2 schools of thought, I suppose. Something a little bit more direct you might feel you have more control over, but what we're talking about here is a car that, in terms of bang for your buck for a racing car, is extremely good value. And they've kept all the good bits of the Dark Horse road car, and that includes those brakes that are assisted. And if you get the chance to go for a test drive, particularly if you get the chance to do any track driving in a Dark Horse road car, you will see that those multi-caliper brake system boosted brakes that they have there are absolutely outstanding. I think there's a little bit of damage to the back of Alex Bashira's car. I saw something hanging down underneath and between the rear wheels. I think he's lost a little bit of the under tray there. Let's see if it's still flapping around. Yeah, there's definitely something that is closer to the road that I think it should be. And down the Ullman Straight, that's going to start flapping around, and you'll get that horrible maybe that's why he's just eased his pace a little bit. It was a 17.5 last time around, but Chris Clark hasn't been able to close in. Still 15 seconds, all bar half a tenth between them as we come round to the final 3.75 miles of the 2nd round of Mustang Challenge North America. Bashira continues his domination of the Dark Horse Legends. Just got to bring this car home. And into the wall, Jim Farley. Oh my goodness. The blue and white number 17, he's found reverse straight away. I think we'll stay green. That was, I think, on the just coming into the Jean de Bihan bends.
I think it might be down at Cunningham towards Tower.
Yeah, you're right. It was a little bit further round. He was battling with the number 84 of Paolo Salvatore. Just got on the throttle a bit early there, maybe.
No traction control, and he was just he was enjoying the fight so much, too greedy, and the rear end steps around on him. But I do think he's done a good job of minimizing any damage to that car.
I don't see any damage to the car. That was a minor touch. Meanwhile, half a lap ahead of that, as Joe Dedricks, by the way, was battling with Jim Farley for position. The round 3 racing, and the Trim Tech's red, white and blue car, well, almost a full lap ahead now, just coming to the last half of this lap. I can't see. Michael Tussey still has the fastest lap in Dark Horse. It is Alex Bashira who has it in the Dark Horse Legends. But other than that, this has been a bit of a Mary Poppins debut in Mustang Challenge North America, because round 3 racing and driver Cole Loftsgard have been practically perfect. As they come into the final corner, round 3 have taken the first 2 rounds of the 2026 championship. The checkered flag is out, and Cole Loftsgard leads the championship after the Sebring weekend. Michael Tussey from pole will settle for 2nd position. Devin Anderson let off the hook maybe a little bit by Sandy Satullo, just making that tiny mistake. Confirmed in 3rd place, Satullo in 4th. Will Lucas just... actually, Satullo came right back at Anderson at the end there. That was closer than I thought it might have been. Then Will Lucas another second or so behind. Alex Bashura cleans up in the Dark Horse Legends for Spark Performance. We wish him and his partner well for their new challenge. That was 6th overall. Chris Clark 14.425 seconds behind in 7th. Ryan Persing 8th overall, 6th in the Dark Horse class. Tate Pritt 9th. And rounding up the top 10 is Tom Tate for Wheelhouse Motorsport. He's 3rd, making up the podium positions in Dark Horse Legends. Well, are we seeing the dawn of a new era? Are we seeing the dawn of a new era? Thanks for following along with us, and particularly thank you to Mrs. Hill at North Hart Elementary, their 5th grade class there, who've been learning all about adding and subtracting with decimal places, using the gap to the leader. And we wish you well in your studies. Thanks for being with us. We want you to stay with us if you can for just a little moment more. There you go. In the classroom with the Mustang Challenge up on the big screen, and lots of proper workings out. Always show your workings out. That's something I got taught by my mathematics teachers back in... Here are the results. No need to do the arithmetic here. We've done it for you. Cole Loftsgard wins by 2.5 seconds to Michael Tussey in 2nd for Wheelhouse. Another good result for them. Devin Anderson brings Tech Sport number 20 through in 3rd. Sandy Satullo makes it another Wheelhouse car in the top 4, and it's 3 in the top 5 as Will Lucas is there as well. Alex Bashura comfortably taking the Dark Horse Legends and only half a minute behind the leader. Chris Clark was a little bit further back from him, some 14 seconds. Then Ryan Persing, Tate Pritt and Tom Tate, another Wheelhouse car in the top 10. Beyond that, Colin Harrison was a minute and 12 seconds away from the lead in 11th position, with Doug Pedersen in 12th. Paolo Salvatore and Nick Smithers just off the podium in Dark Horse Legends in 13th and 14th overall. Jim Farley recovering after his off, finished in 15th because Walter Bobko and Joe Dedricks were a lap off the pace. Jude Gilotti had a problem again, went behind the wall. Bruce Griffin sadly unable to start after an incident early in the week. We'll hopefully welcome Flying Lion back when we're next on track. So we've kicked it off, the Mustang Challenge North America for 2026. It's been an absolute joy. A nearly perfect weekend. And a great way to show the rest of the grid how to manage his Michelin tyres. Cole Loftsgard cleans it up and leaves here as the decisive season leader. But we've seen in the 2 races so far that Michael Tosi, Devon Anderson, Sandy Satullo and Will Lucas will all be in the conversation by the time we get to the end of the season. The good news is you can see it all here with our junior counterparty and me, John Hindhaugh, for the whole team. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.